Hello there. Well, I figured I'd do things a little differently this time, and I'm going to play an interactive novel called Moonlight Walks. I saw this, and I really did quite like the look of it, and got a lot of high ratings, so I thought, why not? Get a bit of reading done while we're at it, and if I'm not mistaken, spacebar? I read the readme, but obviously not enough. I'm gonna quickly adjust the volume. Okay. Oh! I just fucked up. No, alright, hang on. Yeah. Okay, seeing as how I managed to close the game, we're gonna try to not do that again. It was the summer before I started college. I had spent the past 2 years studying, taking tests and applying for admission. Now, for the first time in a while, I had a little downtime, so I decided to take the opportunity to explore America. It's a good idea. But since I was broke, my plans were quickly scaled down to spending the summer at my aunt and uncle's house, sorry I'm reading like an idiot now, on a small island known as North Sand Island. North Sand Island was a barrier island in the Atlantic Ocean. It was remote enough that there wasn't even a bridge to it, just a ferry that ran a few times a day. God forbid you have to go to hospital. Being such a small island, there wasn't all that much to do, but solitude was nice, and I found ways to pass the time. One thing I did was to take pictures with my digital camera. On the night of the full moon, I decided that I wanted to capture the sunrise. Sorry, did I say moonrise or sunrise? I can't go back. So I went to the beach just before the moon came up. I set up my camera on a tripod and locked in the appropriate shutter speed and f-stop. I know nothing about cameras, I don't know what that is. Every few seconds as the moon rose, I used the remote that came with my camera to snap another frame showing the moon and its reflection in the water. It only took a few minutes for the moon to rise over the horizon, but I kept at it for a while longer. Losing my voice. Finally, I was done. I started packing up my camera and my tripod to get ready to head back to my aunt and uncle's house. Oh. That's when I first saw her in the distance. I could see someone else walking down the beach. One sec, I'm gonna make the volume a bit better. I'm always fiddling with the volume. I could tell that it was probably a girl or a woman from the long white dress she wore, but from that distance it was hard to tell anything else about her. I decided to stay a bit and see who it was. In all the times I've gone out stargazing, I've never met anyone just walking down the beach in the middle of the night. At that late hour, most people were either at home or in a town with other people. You hardly ever saw people by themselves. The only time I've seen someone else on the beach at night would be when they are watching the stars or the satellites go by. I've never seen a satellite go by, but then again, I've never really... But those people stay still and look up at the sky while this girl was looking down at the ground in front of her, watching where she was going. I ran through a number of crazy scenarios in my head. Maybe she had some disease that meant she couldn't go out in the sun. Porphyria. Or photosensitivity. Maybe she was looking for buried treasure. I'd bring a metal detector, if I was doing it. It only took me a few seconds to dismiss these. What was the chance of them actually happening? I waited for a while. As she slowly made her way down the beach, I didn't think such a slow walk could be for exercise, but I had no idea what else she could be doing out there. Finally, she was close enough that I could get a good look at her, using the telephoto lens on my camera. It's awfully stalkerish. She was the most beautiful girl I'd ever seen. She was around my age, a year or two younger or older at the most, and in perfect shape. Tall as walks. Her skin was flawless, if a bit pale, because she walks at night, and her hair was very light, almost as white as the long dress she was wearing. Together, the combination of pale skin, light hair, and the white dress made her seem to glow in the moonlight. She was a fair ways off, and I was pretty sure that she hadn't seen me. I knew what it was I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted to take her picture. I knew that I wanted to talk to her. Oh, I have choices! I'm inclined to say that taking her picture is kind of... it's kind of weird. As the girl was walking away, I decided the best thing to do was to put my camera away and wait for her to come closer. I didn't want to scare her away by running towards her, or to have to shout over the ocean's waves. The ocean waves are pretty loud in my headphones. I'm having to talk pretty loud. That looks like a familiar face. Where have I seen that face? After I had patiently waited for what must have been 20 minutes, she was finally close enough that I could talk to her in a reasonable voice. She did not look 20 minutes like she was 20 minutes away. Hello. Maybe it wasn't the most eloquent of lines, but it was all I could think of at the time, and it got the job done. Oh. It froze, and when I clicked it, I missed that line. I'm terrible at this. It's a nice night. It's warm, but not really that hot. She nodded at this, but didn't say anything. I finally decided to cut to the chase and ask her a question on my mind. The question on my mind. So, what are you doing out here? She'd ask you the same thing, really. Girl. Walking. Just walking? In the middle of the night? Yes. Are you going anywhere in particular? I walk around the island, following the beaches. The island wasn't that big. I could go around it in a few hours, maybe a little more if I stopped for a break. I'd have no problems keeping up with her. I think that's stalking, by very definition. Mind if I walk with you? If that's what you want. She's awfully rude. Standoffish. Very standoffish. I decided that I'd bring my camera with me, but I hid my tripod and bag in the dunes. This took only a few seconds and we quickly started walking down the beach. Why didn't you just take me with you? We walked in silence for a while until we could no longer see where we started. I looked back anyway and saw only our footprints breaking up the sand of the beach. Walking was great, but I needed to try talking to this girl. I decided to see if I could find out why she was walking at night. So... She stopped and looked at me. Is there a reason why you were walking down the beach at night? Alone. It's something to do. I see. Do you do this often? It seems like I do this every day. Are you a ghost? Do you always walk alone, or do other people come with you? Usually, I'm walking by myself, but once in a while I meet someone else, and sometimes they decide to walk with me. Like now. It's only happened a few times, though, and I don't think that anyone has asked me as many questions as you. In other words, shut your frickin' mouth, man. I didn't know how to take this, and we stood in silence for a second. It's not very long. Finally, she let out a small laugh, smiled, and took the initiative. What were you doing out there? I didn't think that she was interested in me, and so it took me a second to respond to her question. Seeing my hesitation, she elaborated. I think we both agree that it's rare to meet someone else out on the beach this time of night. So what were you doing out there? Sorry, what were you doing there? Excuse me. It took me another second to think back to what I was doing. But finally I answered her. I'm into astronomy, well, stargazing, really. I was out taking digital photos of the moon as it rose. She looked at me questioningly. Inquisitively? As if she didn't know what I was talking about. I found that a little odd, as I thought everyone knew what a digital camera was. I decided to show her my camera. I decided to show her the moon. The moon's always there. I'm pretty sure she's seen it. I decided that the easiest way to explain was to show her some of the pictures I had taken. Good thing I didn't take any pictures of her. And so I pulled my camera out of its case and turned it on. I switched it to displaying pictures and called up one of the last pictures I had taken, one which showed the full disk of the moon. I held up the camera to the girl to let her see the picture on its screen. She took a good look at it, turned to take a look at the moon in the sky, and then took another long look at the screen. The moon, it's so small. No, far away. I didn't know what exactly she was trying to get at here. The pictures are small here, but they look much bigger on the computer screen. I tried explaining, but it just seemed to confuse her even more, so I decided to change the topic. Did you grow up around here? I did. Did her facial expression just change, or did I... When I was growing up, there weren't all these houses and buildings on the island. The only things on the island were farms, and the farms were huge. I'm pretty sure you're a ghost. Only 4 families lived here, and between us we owned all the land on the island. My family was one of the 4. We owned the southern end of the island, where we first met. We hadn't cleared all of our land, but we had a large enough farm so that we could grow the food we needed and sell some at the market. I didn't know the island's population was so small, so recently. I knew that tourism could grow a population, but so quickly? No, she's a ghost. Did you go to school on the mainland then? Once in a while, when we took the ferry over to sell our produce, we would spend a few days in the school being tested. But most of the time, we were homeschooled. When she says being tested, in my head, I pictured like lab experiments. Mama would teach us reading and writing, and Papa would teach us math and things. At least before they died. Alarm bells would be ringing here because their death and the panning out of time... Never mind. With this, her smile went away. It was obvious that this was a hard subject for her to talk about. I asked her about her parents. I dropped the subject. Be curious and insensitive, or change the subject. Change the subject. It looked like if I asked her to continue, she would break out in tears, so I decided to let it go, and instead just started walking down the beach again. I don't know how much time passed until we spoke again. Maybe it was an hour, maybe less, maybe longer. This guy, right? Her age is maybe a few years younger, maybe a few years older. Might have been a few hours, might have been not a few hours. We slowly made our way around the island, with me walking a few feet behind her. Bit stalkerish. Looking at that ass. If it had been someone else, I probably would have taken my leave and headed back for home. But there was something about this girl that made me want to stay with her. She's a ghost, I'm sure of it. An aura of some sort, of ghostiness, or beauty, or tragedy of being a ghost, of loneliness because she's dead. Perhaps I'll stop doing that now. Some combination of them, all of them, and more. And so we kept silently walking down the moonlit beach. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore, and I tried once again to strike up a conversation. So, is there anything you want to do with your life? For a few seconds she said nothing, as if I had said something wrong. But then she began to speak. Once, I thought I knew. Don't like that position of your hands, that's kind of creepy. When I was younger, it was like my life was planned out for me already. I would follow in my mother's footsteps. I'd help her on the farm for a few years. Sorry, again. Even when we were young, we had chores. But when we finished our schooling, we could help out even more. Eventually, I'd meet a nice boy. I didn't know who at the time. Thinking back, it probably would have been one of the Miller boys. They were around my age. We would get married and start a farm of our own. We'd raise a family together, a few girls, and I always wanted a boy because all I had was sisters. Now, however... Her smile vanished as she let the thought trail off. After a little while, she changed the subject back to me. What about you? What do you plan to do in the future? Her question took me a little off guard, both because I wasn't expecting her to ask me the same thing, and because I'd never really thought much about my own future. She smiled a little at my obvious confusion. Well, I'm spending this summer visiting my family. When it's over, I'll be heading off to school. Aren't you a little old to still be in school? Well, state school. I'm going to be attending a university in the fall. I guess he means like state college. I mean, for me, that's like, yeah. I don't know what I'll do after that, and I don't even know what classes I'll be taking, or exactly what my major will be. I figure that when I'm not at school, I'll be living with my parents for a while. Eventually I'll get a job and move out. As to settling down and starting a family, well, I have no idea about when that's going to happen. I've been there. I haven't really thought much about it yet. I don't think many people have their lives as well planned out as you. I think most people are just sort of winging it. At this, she let out a quiet laugh. Is there something wrong with that? No, nothing at all. In fact, I think I envy you, because you're not dead. Why? Well, you could do anything you want with your life. You can go anywhere you want. Some people would think that having too many choices is some sort of curse or a burden, but I think it's just freedom, and that's a good thing. I think it's nice to live a life where your future is open, where you can do anything you want. Once again, I didn't know what to say, and for a second I thought we'd go back to walking in silence. But instead of letting the conversation falter, she kept it going. What do you do for fun? Hang on a second. Lots of things. I like drawing, listening to music, and watching cartoons and football on TV. Football? She repeated the term slowly. Football. As if she knew both words, but had never heard them used that way before. Football. Football? Yeah, football, you know, the sport. You've heard of it, right? She shook her head to indicate that she hadn't. No matter where you grow up, at some point there will have been children who will have kicked a round object, be it a ball, be it a lettuce or a cabbage. It will have happened. How can I begin to describe it? There are two teams on the field at once, and one of them has the ball. The center hikes the ball to the... This is American football, to the quarterback. I was thinking soccer. Yeah, never mind. The quarterback can either throw the ball to another player, hand it to another guy, or try to run with it. Everything I said seemed to confuse her even more. How is this not ringing alarm bells in his head? But I didn't know what else to do, so I just kept on going. The other team tries to stop them by tackling the player with the ball. If they can't move the ball 10 yards in 4 downs, and the other team gets it. You know, I don't know any of these rules, so this is teaching me a lesson. It was around this part of my explanation that she broke out giggling. Now that I look back on it, my explanation was sort of absurd. And so we passed the night talking about things. Mostly, I talked, and she listened. Sometimes she would ask me questions, and I would answer them as best I could. Many times that wouldn't be good enough, and she would break out laughing as I fumbled through another explanation. We spent the rest of the night like this, talking and laughing as we made our way through the island. Oh, I just yawned, sorry about that. As we made our way around the island. Oh no! Oh, I thought it crashed! By dawn we had almost made it all the way around the island, to a cliff not far from where we had first met. The girl started to climb back down the beach below, but I stopped her. I thought we could stay here and watch the sun come up. To me it looks like it's already come up. To my surprise, her reaction to my explanation was one of shock. It's sunrise already? I have to be going. I'll turn into a pumpkin. This came as a surprise to me. We had been getting along well, and now she was about to run off. She must have seen the disappointment on my face as she changed her tone as she elaborated. It's not you. I like... It's just that I can't. I understand. I said, not really understanding anything. She dematerialized into the mist. As she started walking away, I searched my mind to see if there was anything I could say to keep her there just a little longer. Suddenly I realized that there was something I had forgotten to ask her. Oh, shit. What is your name? And it's going to be some kind of ancient name, like Abdul Al-Jarazad. What is your name? When can I see you again? Well, she walks the beach every night, so... I realised that throughout the entire night, and I've never asked her what her name was. A bad habit of mine is that I can have whole conversations without knowing someone's name. So I asked her, almost shouting the question to her. She rematerialised. She stopped walking, turned back to me and smiled. It's Mary. Mary Harper. At that moment, the sun cleared the horizon. Its brilliance blinded me, and I reflexively closed my eyes. I've seen the sunrise many times before and since, but I've never seen it as bright as it was at that time. When I opened my eyes again, the girl was gone. I didn't know why she went, how she had left so quickly, or where she had gotten off to. The one thing I did know was the fact that I wanted to meet her again. Having found out her name, I proceeded to look her up on the web. Of course, the name Mary Harper gave me thousands of hits. Put the name of the island there, maybe? Learn to Google. But after I narrowed it down to the local area, I got nothing at all. According to an online phone book, no one named Harper lived on the island. Either she's a ghost or she doesn't have a phone. After getting sleep, I went to the library to find out more about her. Knowing she said that she was from around here, I took out a book on the history of North Sand Island, and you found out she died 100 years ago. The only thing I found when I looked up Harper in the book was a story of the Harper family that lived on the island in the 1780s. Well, wow, that's even further away. They were wiped out by an epidemic that killed almost everyone on the island in 1790. Only a few boys escaped to tell the tale. I would imagine it was the flu. It left the island empty. Spanish influenza was a big problem back then. Was it Spanish influenza? Yeah, I'm sure it was. I digress. And it wasn't until after the Civil War that people settled here again. I looked through the book and through the records of people living on the island after it was resettled. Despite hours of searching, I couldn't find anyone named Harper. That sound kicking back in made me jump. That night, I went out to the beach where I first saw her, hoping to meet her again. I spent the entire night there, but she didn't show up. Well, she should have done. She said she walked there most nights. I tried again the next night, and the night after that. Every night for 2 weeks. But after that night, I never saw her again. And I never forgot her either. Ending 2. History. Oh, I got ending 2. Now, I remember reading that there was multiple endings, but I really liked that as a visual novel. I really enjoyed that story. I'm not going to play it again to see the other ending, because I feel like having reached that ending was the ending that was meant for me, because obviously I made the choices I would have chosen. Choosing anything else isn't really going to be the same, and that was a good game. I liked it. I wonder if this guy's made other stuff. I certainly hope he has. What a beautiful tale. Oh. I guess that's it. Oh, there it goes. Okay. Well, game over.